The entire town heard the insult. Your land isn't worth the rust on my bulldozer. The words echoed across the crowded county meeting hall. People turned their heads. Some laughed. Others looked away. Standing alone near the back of the room was 68-year-old farmer Samuel Carter. His boots were worn. His denim jacket was faded. His hands carried decades of hard labor. Across from him stood Victor Langston, the richest developer in 3 counties. Victor owned luxury resorts, shopping centers, office towers, entire neighborhoods. And today, he wanted Samuel's farm. The problem was simple. Samuel refused to sell. For 6 generations, the Carter family had worked that land. The farm wasn't large. It wasn't beautiful. Years of drought had left sections barren. The old barn leaned slightly to one side. The fences needed repair. The farmhouse roof leaked every spring. But it was home. Victor saw something else. Opportunity. A massive interstate expansion was planned nearby. Property values would rise dramatically. If he controlled enough surrounding land, he could build a luxury development worth hundreds of millions. Only one parcel stood directly in the center of his vision: Samuel's farm. And Samuel refused every offer. That refusal had become personal. Very personal. Victor smiled as the crowd watched. I've offered you more money than this dirt pile will ever be worth. Samuel remained silent. Victor stepped closer. You know what your problem is? The room became quiet. You still think hard work matters. A few people chuckled. Victor continued. The world moved on, old man. You're standing on worthless dirt. Samuel looked at him calmly. Then he spoke. My father is buried on that land. The laughter stopped. My grandfather, too. He paused. And my son. The room fell silent. For a brief moment, even Victor seemed uncomfortable. Then the developer shrugged. Sentiment doesn't increase property value. The meeting ended. Victor walked away smiling. Samuel drove home alone. Rain began falling before he reached the farm. The old pickup rattled down the dirt road. Dark clouds covered the sky. The field stretched endlessly on both sides. This land had survived floods, droughts, market crashes, family tragedies. Now it faced something different: greed. Samuel parked beside the farmhouse. Inside, bills covered the kitchen table. Property taxes, equipment repairs, medical expenses. The numbers didn't lie. He was struggling. Badly. Victor knew it. The bank knew it. Everyone in town knew it. What nobody realized was that something unusual had happened 3 weeks earlier. A group of state surveyors had quietly visited neighboring properties. No one knew why. No announcements were made. No explanations were given. The visits remained a mystery. And that mystery was about to change everything. 3 days later, Samuel received another letter. Not from the bank. Not from Victor. From a county government. He opened it carefully. His eyes narrowed, then widened. A state geological team requested permission to access a small section of his property. No explanation. No details. Just a request. Samuel signed the approval. He figured they were studying soil conditions for the new highway. Nothing more. But he was wrong. Very wrong. The survey team arrived 2 days later. Several trucks rolled onto the farm. Engineers stepped out carrying equipment. They drilled samples, collected measurements, examined maps, worked for hours. Samuel watched quietly. One surveyor seemed especially interested in a specific ridge near the northern boundary. Again and again, they returned to the same location. Again and again, they took samples. Something about that ridge mattered. Samuel noticed. So did someone else. Victor Langston. Because Victor had people watching. The developer learned about the survey team before sunset. His reaction was immediate. He made calls. Lots of calls. For the first time in months, Victor looked nervous. That was the moment everything changed. The next morning, Samuel received an offer. Not double. Not triple. 10 times larger than any previous offer. Victor wanted the farm immediately. Cash. No dilas. No negociations. Samuel stared at the paperwork. Something felt wrong. Why would a man who called his land worthless suddenly offer millions? The answer was obvious. Victor knew something. Something important. Samuel refused again. Victor exploded. Within days, pressure came from every direction. The bank suddenly demanded payments. Inspectors appeared. Complaints were filed. Legal notices arrived. Friends urged him to sell. Even some relatives questioned his decision. The stress became overwhelming. But Samuel held on, because deep down, he sensed the truth. Someone desperately wanted him gone, and desperate people usually had a reason. Weeks passed. The tension grew. Then came a midpoint twist. Late one afternoon, a state vehicle pulled into Samuel's driveway. A woman stepped out. Professional, confident, serious. She introduced herself as Rebecca Torres, senior state surveyor. Samuel invited her inside. Rebecca placed several documents on the table. Then she asked a simple question. Has anyone offered to buy your farm recently? Samuel laughed. Only every week. Rebecca didn't smile. How much do you know about your property's geology? Samuel frowned. Nothing. Rebecca took a deep breath. Then she revealed part of the truth. Preliminary surveys indicated unusual mineral concentrations beneath portions of the farm. Extremely unusual. The state was conducting additional testing. Results were not final, but early data suggested something potentially significant. Samuel's heart pounded. What kind of mineral? Rebecca shook her head. I can't say yet. Then she leaned forward. But if the findings are confirmed, she stopped. If they're confirmed, everything changes. Hope flooded through Samuel. For the first time in months. For the first time in years. But then came another obstacle. The results weren't finalized. Nothing was guaranteed. And Victor wasn't finished. Not even close. The developer somehow learned about Rebecca's visit. His behavior became aggressive. Lawsuits appeared. Access roads were challenged. Rumors spread throughout town. Victor portrayed Samuel as stubborn, greedy, delusional. The local newspaper even ran a story suggesting the farmer was blocking economic progress. Public opinion began turning against him. Samuel became isolated, alone, exhausted. Yet he refused to surrender. Because now he knew there was something beneath the farm, something powerful enough to scare a billionaire. Months passed. The final testing continued. Then came the day nobody would ever forget. A public county hearing was scheduled. Official survey findings would finally be released. The courthouse overflowed with people. Farmers, business owners, reporters, lawyers, investors. Everyone wanted answers. Victor arrived surrounded by attorneys. Expensive suits. Confident smiles. The developer acted as though victory was already secured. Samuel arrived alone, wearing the same old denim jacket, the same worn boots, the same quiet dignity. The hearing began. Experts presented charts, maps, technical reports, complex geological data. Most people struggled to understand. Then Rebecca Torres took the podium. The room became silent. She opened a folder, adjusted the microphone, and delivered the sentence that changed everything. After extensive analysis, the state confirms the existence of one of the largest rare earth mineral deposits discovered in this region in over 50 years. The room erupted. People gasped. Reporters scrambled. Phones appeared everywhere. Rebecca continued. The deposit extended primarily beneath Samuel Carter's property. Estimated value? Billions. Not millions. Billions. The room exploded into chaos. Then came the second bombshell. Because Rebecca wasn't finished. Further investigation had uncovered evidence that Victor Langston learned about preliminary survey data months earlier. Before the information became public, the developer had used that knowledge to pressure landowners into selling below market value. Several acquisition attempts were now under investigation. The courtroom froze. Every head turned toward Victor. His face lost all color. For the first time anyone could remember, the billionaire looked afraid. Very afraid. State officials continued presenting evidence. Emails, communications, internal documents, timelines. The picture became clear. Victor hadn't wanted Samuel's farm because it was worthless. He wanted it because it was priceless. And he knew it. The humiliation was absolute. Public. Total. Everything Samuel endured suddenly made sense. The insults, the pressure, the threats, the lawsuits, all of it. Victor never saw a poor farmer. He saw an obstacle standing between him and unimaginable wealth. Now the entire county knew the truth. The developer who called Samuel worthless had spent months desperately trying to steal the most valuable property in the region. The reversal was devastating. Reporters surrounded Victor. Questions flew from every direction. His lawyers rushed him toward the exit. Cameras followed. No one was interested in his answers. Because the story had already been written. The rich developer had been exposed. Meanwhile, something extraordinary happened. People approached Samuel, one after another. Farmers, neighbors, business owners, strangers. They shook his hand, thanked him, apologized. Many admitted they had doubted him. Samuel accepted every apology with grace. No anger, no revenge, just quiet dignity. Because that was who he was. Months later, formal agreements were reached. The mineral rights generated wealth beyond anything Samuel had imagined. Yet he didn't leave. He didn't buy mansions. He didn't move to the city. Instead, he repaired the farmhouse, restored the barn, expanded local scholarships, helped struggling farmers, supported community projects. He invested in the town that had raised him. As for Victor Langston, investigations continued. Several projects collapsed. Investors withdrew. His reputation never recovered. The man who believed money gave him power discovered something far stronger. Truth. One autumn evening, Samuel stood beside the ridge where surveyors had first taken samples. Golden sunlight stretched across the fields. The wind moved gently through the grass. For a long time, he said nothing. Then his granddaughter asked the question everyone wondered. "Grandpa, did you ever know there was treasure under the farm?" Samuel smiled. He looked across the land his family had protected for generations. Then he answered softly, "No." He paused. "But I always knew the land was worth more than people thought." The sun dipped below the horizon. The fields glowed gold. And for the first time in years, the future looked brighter than the past. Because sometimes the world sees only dirt, until the truth buried underneath finally rises to the surface.